Nice to be here, everyone. Thanks so much for welcoming us.
Well, Nicole, it's so exciting to be here in San Francisco and with some tech crunch and with a category-changing, creating founder.
Thank you, Nat. Thank you.
So how did you start this? What was your vision for GP?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started GP, which is Global Made Possible, we ultimately, I guess what I had been doing was helping companies establish their operations all over the globe as a consultant. And it was kind of the same thing over and over again. In those days, it was NetSuite and Infinera and Tesla saying, hey, we need to hire somebody in Singapore or Brazil or the UAE. And it was essentially the same thing over and over again. And every time they would have to set up a company in each country before they could issue an employment offer to even one employee, figure out how to run payroll, take care of all the tax, legal, and HR issues in that location. It was like the same thing over and over, just this super bureaucratic process. So originally the intention was around setting up a legal entity in each country and telling the customer, we'll hire this person to work for you. You tell the terms, we'll pay the person, and building software on top of that to make it super scalable and easy. And today, it's really about both the employer of record platform, which was the original business model, and making that super scalable quick so that everyone can hire everyone. In our view, it's like the market has just caught awareness of this being that you can hire people all over the globe quickly and easily using an employer of record platform. It's still nascent in the market awareness. There's like 1% to 5% market penetration, but the product is essentially built for that. So now we're building a new category on top of that, which is global growth technology that enables anyone to hire anyone quickly and easily anywhere in the world without necessarily using our entities if they want to set up their own, or there's just another way of doing it. And that's really using AI to record a lot of the, to automate and guide customers through the same things that we talk our customers through every day and make it easy and seamless.
Thank you, Nicole. So you did it with EOR, and I would love to hear your personal inspiration of what got you to start GP.
Thank you. Yeah, I know there's a lot of founders in this room, and ultimately, you have to rely on your own passion and intuition every single day when you're building a company, because if it's just an idea that you don't just believe in with all your heart and soul, you're just never going to make it. Nat and I were talking earlier about just like the journey of 10 years as a company, and now we've built a quadricorn. And ultimately, that I've been through 3 economic downturns, and like how important it is to build a real vision and or build something that you really believe in to get you through those hard times. But ultimately, what inspired me is that when I was young, as a college student, I was traveling, and I just saw that there were so many talented people all over the globe doing incredibly entrepreneurial, brilliant things. But then when I was working in the Silicon Valley, people are only hiring people who worked within a 5-mile radius of their home location. And at that time, it was really about outsourcing. So outsourcing to, because this is the beginning of telecoms. I know I'm aging myself, but it was the beginning of oh my God, we can hire talent in India that's so much cheaper. And yet these are really talented people, and the telecom industry was just making it possible to hire people, but instead of seeing it as people are equally talented all over the globe for what they really create, at that time it was about lower cost. Now what we're seeing, it's really about what it should be, right? The world has finally caught up. Actually, people in India, it's not about low-cost talent. It's about hiring the best talent you can find anywhere in the world. And with some of the macroeconomic trends, the brilliant people are not going to be in our backyards. They're going to be everywhere. And the world's caught up to that idea as well, just kind of forced acceleration through the pandemic. So yeah, that was the inspiration. Smart people everywhere needing access to opportunity.
And as a 19-year-old, you traveled the globe, and that was your inspiration. So you created the employer of record, EOR category, and now global growth tech. How do you think about category creation? It's a pretty tall order, right?
Yeah, thank you. I think at the end of the day, a lot of people at the time just said this isn't possible, and it would be illegal to build this global employer of record platform. And I will say, luckily, I came from a background of kind of looking at loopholes in different countries and trying to help customers be within the law and yet make it all make sense and make the right decisions, because sometimes you have to kind of weave things together. And it was both like trusting my intuition, but also like knowing that I could make it fit. And then respectfully, like I took it a little slower at the beginning than a lot of venture capital backed companies do now, because I knew how much liability there is when you're employing people and people are relying on you. And at the end of the day, like if we don't pay people in the Philippines, for example, for one of our customers, like those people, like their kids, like if we were to miss a payroll, their kids aren't going to eat that weekend. So there's a lot of responsibility when you're hiring people on behalf of other companies around the globe and building a new category where so many people are reliant on the infrastructure. So it was really important to me to build something that functionally worked and like build a really solid infrastructure and something I could go to the market and say, I believe in this, instead of just a slick user interface and go get funding, which might work for some industries, but just not this one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole. So how did you build the product? You're not an engineer, but you built a great product. How did you do that?
Well, thank you, Nat. One of which you are, for sure. But yeah, I think it comes down to hiring really good people with complementary skill sets. So like most entrepreneurs, I'm really good at the vision, and I need somebody else to tie together the details and execute on things. So I've been very fortunate to have extraordinary people in this business every step of the way. I will say that like the right person for the first stage of the company, you know, when we were being super entrepreneurial, all hands on deck to get to 50 employees, was a different set of leaders than I needed to get to 200 employees internally. And then to my surprise, as a first time like super scaling founder, it was a different set of people to get from 200 to 1,000, you know, and it's just, I wanted to, like, one thing I always try to tell other entrepreneurs is like, just to set your expectations that having the right people around you at every stage of the company, it's probably the most emotionally wrenching thing you can do to move people in and out of the business because you need different skill sets, and yet it's the only way you can grow and succeed. And if somebody would have told me at the beginning, Nicole, just like set your expectations, you're gonna need different people along the way, then I think my heart would have been a little easier on my heart, because like I think I would have set other executives' expectations too. Like, you're in it for this amount of time, and then we're probably going to need other people, because I think when you're in the trenches with people from in the early days, it's quite challenging to make those decisions, but very necessary.
These are some interesting founder nuggets. Trust your gut and intuition, and you got to make hard decisions with people as the company scales. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that, Nicole. I just thought I'll share a little bit about the strategy of the company. You know, I've had the privilege of working with Nicole almost 2 years now, and as we scale and grow this company, right, strategically there are 350 million knowledge workers who sit outside their headquarters. And that's our market opportunity. And we think it's about a $50 billion market opportunity at the very conservative end. And we're reinventing it, right? So think about cloud computing almost 20 years back. It was, hey, I don't think we can do this. Security is not there, data is not there. And today everybody is doing it today. Cloud computing is here. And I think with global growth technology, we have a similar opportunity where when any company thinks about going global, they think of platforms like GP who can help them grow globally without all the compliance headaches that Nicole has really spent time thinking about. So thank you for that. Now, from a founder standpoint, is there anything else you would give advice to people here, listening to you?
Yeah. Well, definitely one thing is like, I feel like one of our key strategies is to not rebuild technology that other people have already built, but rather to partner with those people so that we can be really careful in where we use our limited time and resources. So ultimately to build things that are truly creative, that fit in with an infrastructure, instead of just rebuilding things that already exist. We partner with established industry players that we complement what they need, and ultimately that's going to drive our revenue and growth so much faster. But yeah, global growth is hard and it's different for every company, but we focus on what we're experts in, which is global growth.
One thing that you mentioned is that you really spend time learning the business and leveraging your experience with what is possible. Would love to share, as you did that, what did you learn about compliance and things which are very hard to do, and not just a UI, as you mentioned before?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, ultimately, what we do is actually really complicated under the hood, because we're basically weaving we've woven together a global platform that ultimately ties so each country has their own infrastructure globally, their own financial system, their own HR system, their own social security system, in some cases like their own banking systems, and certainly their own tax system. And what we've built is a platform that overlays over the top, that is compliant in each country, that any country can plug into and use our infrastructure so they don't have to build their own. And I guess there's some things that are simply not scalable, that would not be scalable unless you were to leverage that. And so always staying on top of the details and how important compliance actually is. I guess I'm really happy that we invested so much in the infrastructure at the outset of the business, because what we've seen in this market is that in the early days, a lot of competition came into the market during the pandemic, because suddenly global growth was the idea behind what everybody wanted to be, the market everybody wanted to be in. And a lot of competitors focused on like the slick user interface and like a flashy website, and saying that they could do it with the idea of building the plane while they were flying it, or maybe selling it before it was ready for takeoff. But ultimately, without being able to actually run the business, a lot of companies would be running into trouble in a company that requires so much infrastructure as ours underneath things.
Thank you, Nicole. Talk about your customers. We have a lot of customers. Any advice you would give these folks on how to build customer relationships for the long term?
Yeah, ultimately, so we always had a rule around the triple bottom line, that what's good for our employees and what's good for our customers is ultimately good for our shareholders. I think that mentality served us really well. The industry is about people, right? So if we're in global growth technology, and that's around enabling everyone everywhere to have access to opportunity, and the opportunists are the companies who are hiring these people, the companies also want to take care of people and their livelihoods. So our approach has always been, make it technology when you want it, but have a human available when you need it. And that's also really critical to our business. So one thing related to that, just to give an example, we had an employee who kind of disappeared from the payroll in Hong Kong. And the customer is calling, and they're like, we just don't know what happened to this person. Like, he's not showing up to work. Software is never going to solve that problem for you. So we dug in. We had our HR person in Hong Kong calling around, and it turned out that this person just kind of went off on a bender ultimately and was in a hospital. That's a really human situation. You are never going to be able to build software around that. So the tech when you want it, but human when you need it, has been a critical and core component. But yeah, customers are our compass, and like, we have to follow what they want and need and build for what they want and need. And in some cases, think ahead. Henry Ford said, if I would have given people what they wanted, it would have been a faster horse. And now look at Tesla, for example.
Thank you, Nicole. You talked about future-proofing, building for scale. I'm super excited about what we're building for scale. Actually, we started with people, right? We have people across the globe. We are very compliant, and we're marrying that up with AI. It'll be very difficult for me not to talk about AI in San Francisco today, but using the people, using AI, and creating a platform for the future. I think that's about future-proofing. We really believe this is a huge business. We are dogfooding our own stuff. We have employees in close to 41 countries, and we look like a company 10x our size. And it works, it scales. I have people across the globe to run and build our product and technology teams, and we believe this can be the way companies build for the future. So, one of the things I want to get your thoughts on was, as a founder, right, you have these shifts, right? So you created the EOR category. You're now creating global growth tech. What's the most challenging thing you've had to do in these phases?
Yeah, it does go back to the people, and just making sure that I always have the right people at the table, and identifying like when we're at the end of a chapter, and it's like, okay, we need new leadership in. Another thing I think is a really challenging thing is, as a founder, is that the hard decisions always stop with us. We can try to delegate decision-making authority, but when it hits the fan, we're the ones who are responsible. And what I found is that no matter who you hire, you can hire the world-class CFO, COO, CRO, it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to make the really hard calls yourself. But I want to turn it back to you for a minute, Nat, which in terms of building, I mean, I feel like, yes, I built the EOR category was my idea, the global growth technology is my idea, but it's really a collaboration, and you're taking the vision and executing on it. So what are your hot tips for building a product and technology team in the current environment, and just where there is talent all over? Like, how are you managing such a global remote workforce and team, and what are your tips for people?
Well, thank you, Nicole. One, it's an inspiration to be with a founder like you, because you push the envelope and it inspires all of us, and it makes things possible. I think, how do we build for scale? You look for, today we have X number of people on our platform, right? Tomorrow we want 1000X, we want 2000X, or 100,000X, and how do we do that? So we intentionally build for the future, right? That's one. Secondly, through our platform, I've been able to hire the best talent in the world. I'm not restricted by any jurisdiction, any country, so I can hire in Europe, I can hire in Asia, I can hire in, all of America. So that's been very intentional. Third, we're a remote-first company. And this is not a fad, COVID, right? So Nicole started this almost 12 years back, and we've been remote ever since. And being so remote-first, we have really good rhythms on how we make sure people stay engaged, whether meeting every so often in person, and that makes the remote work for the time that we're not in person work. Secondly, on the technology, really thinking about, for instance, we are making a big bet on serverless. We're already in the cloud, but we're making a big bet on serverless technologies, which we think is the future of how we can scale up products. And third, being very intentional about what the platform will do, what is differentiating about the platform. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a combination of, having the right operating rhythms to begin with as a remote-first company, using our own, technology and platform to hire people everywhere across the globe, and then having operating rhythms to make it work, meeting in person when you need, right? And really betting on some future edge technologies. That's how we're building what we are. So just to reiterate it, a company our size, if you look at how global we are and how we operate globally, we're like 10x our size. Mm-hmm. Companies 10x our size would probably deal with the same challenges, but that's how we do it, Nicole. As we wrap up, I just want to leave some founder nuggets, right? What I heard from you was, one, category creation is hard, but you got to go with your gut. Second, make the hard decisions on people, right? The third is really leverage all your experiences that you have, right? Even as a 19-year-old, you were sort of thinking about how to reinvent a problem area that you saw. Anything else you'd like to add to wrap up for this audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few things around scalability and systems that it's like you can have the big vision and big idea, but it's the execution that ultimately matters. And related to that, it goes again to actually building a core business. So in the last 10 years, I've been through 3 economic downturns. And every single time, I'm really grateful that we didn't get overly caught up in the hype around the pre-IPO cycle. So pretty much everybody was preparing for an IPO in, a year or so, a year and a half ago. And important, but not to be overly spendy. I mean, it's like there's people flying in Beyonce to sing on stage at the company meetings and things like that. Like at the end of the day, you have to focusing on core business fundamentals of what's our revenue and what's our expenses and how is this ultimately hitting our KPIs and building an actual business. I've been really grateful for that every single time that the economy has a downturn. So it's a journey, and it's driven by vision, hard work, and grit. And every entrepreneur in this room knows that it's a lot of grit. So striking a balance between innovation, disruption, and just sustainability and scalability, I think, is a critical balance to meet. And that's what we're doing with global growth technology.
Thank you, Nicole. So, build a great business. Don't just go after valuations.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you. It is such a privilege to be a part of GP and to share what we have. And I love your founder nuggets, Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you
today.
so much, Nat. Thanks for being here. Thank you for the opportunity.